You were trained to crave applause before you ever did anything worth clapping for. Conditioned like livestock to associate your worth with the eyes that watch you, your spine bent before you even learned to stand. You perform not for the strength of your convictions, but for the smile of the crowd. Validation has become your leash, and you call it love, you call it belonging, but make no mistake, a man who needs to be seen in order to feel real is already owned. He is not free, he is not sovereign, he is a product, shaped by hands that do not care for him, only for how he makes them feel. You keep giving yourself away in pieces, just to be told you're enough. But when did they become the ones who decide? The masses do not reward truth, they reward comfort. And what comforts them the most is your obedience, your compromise, your predictability. So they praise you when you play safe, they nod when you shrink, they cheer when you betray your fire to warm their fragile hearts. But the man who does not need their eyes, the man who can walk in darkness without a single voice of approval, is the man they fear, because he cannot be controlled, he cannot be bribed by compliments or tamed by silence. He answers only to the cold flame inside him. And that, to a world built on illusion, is terrifying. You were never meant to be likable. You were meant to be unchangeable. Every time you hesitate to speak, every time you edit yourself to sound softer, every time you downplay your strength to seem acceptable, understand what you are doing. You are negotiating your power for the price of being liked. You are offering your sovereignty in exchange for temporary affection. And worst of all, you are teaching the world how to treat you. Like a dog that learns not to bark too loud, like a servant who learns to bow before he's even asked. What you tolerate becomes your identity, and what you seek owns you. The need to be understood, admired, validated, it is not a longing, it is a weakness, a soft spot that any manipulator will find and press, and the moment they do, they own you. You keep waiting for the moment they'll see you, love you, recognize your worth. But why? So you can finally allow yourself to believe it. So you can finally stop pretending you're small. The truth is, you already know who you are, but it's easier to defer that power to someone else. It's easier to let their praise carry the burden of your self-belief. Because then, if you fall, you can blame them. But a true prince does not ask for applause. He does not beg for reassurance. He does not shrink when he is doubted. He imposes himself, not through noise, but through the unshakable clarity of action. And when the world does not clap, he moves anyway. Because power is not democratic. It is not handed out by votes. It is seized in silence. Let me tell you the truth no one dares to say. Validation is the drug of the weak. It is how rulers are turned into puppets, how warriors are turned into performers. It is not a reward, it is a chain, painted gold. And the moment you crave it, you have announced to the world that your soul has a price. That your actions are not sovereign, but leased. That your confidence is conditional, built not on principle, but on applause. But what is applause, truly? It is the sound of the masses delaying your execution. They cheer today so they can forget you tomorrow. They celebrate you only as long as you fit their narrative, but deviate even slightly, and they will burn the same throne they built for you. That is the nature of the crowd, fickle, fragile, faithless. You cannot lead if you need to be loved. You cannot rise if your heart is tied to their approval. Detach. Sever the leash. Let them misinterpret you. Let them question your silence. Let them call you cold, arrogant, aloof. Good. Let the mask crack, because only then will they see the truth they were never ready for, that you never needed them, that your worth was not up for debate, that your voice, your mind, your will were never waiting for permission. Only those who do not need validation can bend others to their will. Only those who do not fear rejection can dominate the arena. Because when you cannot be moved by praise, you cannot be destroyed by criticism, you become untouchable. There will come a moment, perhaps soon, where you will be tested. You will be tempted to soften, to smile, to apologize for your strength. Don't. Hold the line. Do not adjust your tone for fragile ears. Do not dilute your truth for shallow approval. Your silence will speak louder than their cheers. Your rejection of their games will become your legend. And when you walk alone without applause, without echo, that is when you will finally hear the sound of real power, the sound of your own will, unbent and undisputed. And now you will notice it, how often they reward you not for being real, but for being predictable. They do not love the man who sees too deeply. They love the one who reflects their delusions back to them. They love mirrors, not windows. So the moment you show them something unfamiliar, something raw, unfiltered, unyielding, they recoil, and you, fearing the loss of their smile, retreat into performance. Again, you dress your thoughts in softness, you paint your ambition in modest tones. You become a portrait, not a presence, a mask that smiles on command. But beneath that mask, the resentment grows, the self-betrayal compounds, and in time, you forget what your real face even looked like. The man who lives by validation is a man of mirrors. His soul, fragmented across every pair of eyes that looks at him. He becomes a collection of reflections, each one demanding a different pose, a different tone, a different lie. And worst of all, he starts to believe them. He forgets his shape, his weight, his original fire. He becomes whatever keeps the peace, whatever keeps the applause. But peace is not power, peace is sedation, and applause is not confirmation, it's control. So while you bow and smile and shrink to fit their comfort, understand what is happening. You are not surviving, you are being sculpted, slowly, quietly, until you forget you were born a lion and start believing you are the cage. The world will always offer you this trade, your authenticity, in exchange for affection. It will tell you, be more agreeable, be more pleasant, be less intense, and you will be liked. But liked by whom? By people who do not know your soul, by people who benefit from your silence, by people who fear the truth you carry because it exposes their delusions. What good is being liked if it costs you your edge? What good is fitting in if it means vanishing? The lion does not apologize to the sheep. The fire does not lower its flame to avoid the discomfort of shadows. The ruler does not step down so the peasants may sleep better. Your power was not made to be palatable. And what if they disapprove? What if they misunderstand you? Let them. A man addicted to being understood is a man in chains. He will twist himself into shapes not meant for him. He will bleed his truth into softer words. He will explain himself endlessly to people who have no intention of listening, and still they will not understand, because their misunderstanding was never about you. It was their weapon, their shield, their way of shrinking you without ever lifting a blade. So stop explaining, stop proving, stop seeking peace through clarity. A true prince does not convince, he commands, and if his words unsettle, if his silence disturbs, so be it. Let discomfort be your banner. There is no throne for the man who fears rejection. There is no kingdom for the soul still begging for permission to be powerful. You will not rise until you bury your need to be liked. You will not lead until you kill the part of you that fears being alone. Validation is the gateway drug to self-erasure. One compliment too many, and suddenly you can't breathe without applause. One moment of disapproval, and you question your entire being. This is not strength. This is slavery. Emotional slavery disguised as connection. You want freedom, then learn to go unrecognized. Learn to be dismissed without flinching. Learn to walk into the fire of disapproval and not blink. That is what makes a ruler. That is what makes a man unforgettable. The great manipulators of history understood this. They knew that the easiest way to control a man was to make him crave your praise. Give him a taste of admiration and watch him twist his life into a performance just to keep it. Tell him he is good and watch him become your servant, forever trying to stay in your light. But deny him your approval and he becomes desperate. He chases, he obeys, he compromises, until he forgets what it means to stand alone. You must not become this man. You must not let their eyes define your shape. Tear the mirror down, burn the stage, return to the raw, unapologetic core beneath the applause. That is where your throne is buried. Because in the end, the world will never love you the way you want it to. Not truly. It will love your silence, your obedience, your entertainment. But the moment you say no, the moment you refuse to shrink, to perform, to smile on cue, they will withdraw. They will crucify what they once celebrated. Let them. Let their love die. It was never love. It was leash. And now that it's broken, you are finally free to become what they feared most, a man who cannot be influenced, a presence that cannot be softened, a soul that does not seek their echo to speak. So what remains when the noise fades? When no one claps, when no one watches, when the lights are off and the mask is too heavy to hold? What remains is the truth you've been avoiding, that without validation, you feel empty. And that is the sickness. That is the fracture in your foundation. You've spent so long outsourcing your worth that you forgot how to feel real without reflection. But here is the brutal law of power. If your identity is borrowed, it can be taken. If your confidence is rented from the opinions of others, it can be evicted. The man who cannot affirm himself is forever at the mercy of those who can. He becomes a puppet of perception, a slave to the applause that will always, inevitably stop. You want control? Begin here. Begin by withdrawing the supply. Cut off the addiction. Deprive yourself of the compliments, the likes, the gentle reassurances. Starve the part of you that craves it. Let it scream. Let it panic. Let it die. Because when it dies, you are born. The real you. The one who does not care if they understand. The one who does not need to be seen to act, or heard to speak. The one who moves in silence, in shadows, in solitude, and remains unmoved. Power is not loud. Power is not approved. Power is earned through detachment, through control, through brutal self-containment. You cannot be respected if you are dependent. You cannot be followed if you are still asking for permission to lead. They told you that humility means being soft, that confidence must be gentle, that leadership must be likable. Lie. Every great ruler in history, every empire forged in silence, was built not by consensus, but by force of will, not by waiting to be chosen, but by choosing himself. The lion does not beg for the forest's respect. He simply exists, and all adjust. Stop shrinking. Stop smiling to survive. Smile to unsettle. Stand tall to disrupt. Make your silence so complete, your independence so violent, that they wonder if you even hear them at all. That is presence. That is domination. That is what makes people kneel, not because you asked, but because they cannot look away. You are not here to be loved. You are not here to soothe. You are here to rule, to create order through presence, direction through clarity, fear through stillness. And none of that requires validation. In fact, the more you seek it, the less you possess it. Those who chase praise are never feared. Those who ask to be respected are never remembered. You do not get respect, you project it, you demand it without speaking. And the only way to do that is to walk as if the throne is already yours. As if every room you enter is smaller than your will. As if every doubt cast upon you burns before it lands. You must move as if your certainty is final, and it becomes so. Because here is the truth. You were born powerful, but they trained you to beg. Every system, every institution, every broken adult taught you to sit quietly, raise your hand, wait your turn, be agreeable. They carved obedience into your posture. They taught you that to be loved, you must shrink. And so you did. You became smaller than your instincts. You folded your fire. You muted your vision. But that version of you, the quiet, obedient, unthreatening one, is not you. It is a mask grafted onto your skin, and it is time to rip it off, with force, with blood, because under that mask is the man they tried to kill, the man who never needed them in the first place. And when he wakes up, when the hunger for validation has been burned out, he will not seek the crowd, he will not care if they cheer, he will not care if they stay or leave, he will be complete, and they will feel it. They will sense the weight in his silence, the violence in his peace, the depth in his refusal to engage. And they will either submit or flee, but they will never forget him, because nothing is more unforgettable than a man who walks as if he has already won, who speaks as if his words shape the ground, who does not need to prove or explain or beg. That man cannot be stopped, because he does not fear dying unloved, he fears dying inauthentic. So let them misunderstand you. Let them mock your detachment. Let them question your coldness. It is not your job to comfort the weak. It is not your duty to explain your evolution. Your job is singular, to become unshakable, to destroy every soft corner within you that still waits for recognition, to kill the boy who still wants to be liked, and to resurrect the man who does not flinch, does not ask, does not need. You must disappear from their scripts, become the anomaly, become the outlier, become the one who simply does not need them, and they will orbit you for the rest of their lives, desperate to understand how you escaped. They will call it arrogance. They will call it ego. But what they are truly naming is your refusal to bend, your refusal to participate in their economy of emotional dependence. To them, self-certainty is threatening because it cannot be negotiated, it cannot be managed, it cannot be bought. You become unpredictable, not because you're unstable, but because you're independent. You do not react to praise. You do not shrink from scorn. You do not explain yourself like a servant trying to justify his meal. You move like a force of nature, not asking for the wind's opinion before you rise. That unsettles them. That disrupts the natural order they were promised. Because when one man frees himself from the need to be liked, he exposes how many others are still in chains. And it's always the same ones who tell you to be careful, to not offend, to be more humble, more palatable. They don't want peace, they want your power, diluted. They want your potential, softened into politeness. You'll hear it in their compliments, hidden like venom in honey. You'd go far if you just toned it down a bit. People would like you more if you weren't so intense. These are not observations, these are threats, subtle demands for you to stay beneath them. Because your presence, unfiltered, unapologetic, forces them to confront their own compromise, their own silence, their own need to be loved, and they cannot stand beside you without feeling small, unless you agree to shrink first. But you will not shrink. You will not trade your edge for affection. Not now, not ever again, because you have seen what happens when you do, the emptiness that follows, the way your own words feel like betrayal when spoken to please, the way your strength rots in the corner while your smile earns you nothing but shallow approval. No more. From this point forward, your allegiance is not to comfort, not to peace, not to false connection. Your allegiance is to truth, and truth has never needed permission. It has never asked to be liked. It simply exists, raw, sharp, and often unwelcome. And so must you. Because if your words no longer offend anyone, you've already abandoned yourself. The world respects only what it cannot manipulate. And the man who walks without the need for validation is the one thing the world cannot mold. He is immune to both flattery and insult. He is unmoved by reward, unreachable by shame, and so he becomes what they all secretly wish to be but fear becoming: a sovereign. Not a king of others, but a king of himself. A man with no leash, no handler, no invisible master, whispering in his mind, make sure they like you. His voice is his own. His silence is strategic. His direction is internal. And that kind of man is not just rare, he is dangerous, because he cannot be redirected, he cannot be softened, he cannot be stopped without force. You want to be that man, then you must let the old self die. The one who flinched at every disapproving glance. The one who scanned the room for signs of acceptance before speaking. The one who lived in delay, delaying truth, delaying action, delaying power, until the room felt safe enough to reveal himself. Kill that man, with precision, with finality. He was never built to rule. He was a shadow kept alive by fear, and once you bury him, burn the map that led you there. Leave no path back to the version of you who begged for softness. From now on, softness will be a choice, not a weakness. Kindness will be deliberate, not reflexive, and your power will be silent, sharp, and unrelenting. Do not fear being alone. Fear being surrounded by people who only see you when you're agreeable, who only support you when you shrink, who only validate you when you betray your edge. These are not friends. These are jailers with smiles. Let them go. Let their confusion echo behind you like a whisper from another life. You are not here to be understood. You are here to disrupt. And the man who disrupts cannot seek consensus. He cannot wait for permission. He moves first, speaks last, and never explains. Because when your power is real, your silence becomes louder than their applause ever was. The moment you stop needing their approval, you will start terrifying them. Because now they're forced to wonder what you'll do next, not because you told them, but because you owe them nothing. You've become untethered, and that makes you uncontrollable. They don't fear the loud ones. They fear the one who no longer plays the game, the one who doesn't flinch when ignored, the one who doesn't soften his tone when doubted, the one who doesn't chase, because that man cannot be baited, cannot be guilted, cannot be bought, and if he cannot be owned, he must be either obeyed or eliminated. There will be attempts to drag you back, apologies, invitations, sweet words, like old songs echoing in empty halls. You've changed, they'll say. You used to be more open, more kind. What they mean is, you used to be pliable, you used to bleed on command, you used to bend when they frowned. And now, that version of you is dead. They're mourning a ghost. And in their grief, they'll try everything: mockery, flattery, even concern. You're isolating yourself. You're becoming cold. Good, let it chill the air. Let your detachment freeze every lie they used to feed you. Because they were never trying to see you, they were trying to shape you, and you've outgrown the mold. This is your rebirth. But unlike what they sell you in the soft scripts of false healing, rebirth is not gentle. It is violent. It is surgical. It requires you to cut parts of yourself that once felt necessary. The smile that smoothed tension, the softness that protected their ego, the constant explaining that diluted your truth. Burn them, not because they were evil, but because they kept you small. You will be tempted to grieve them. Don't. Honor them as tools that served you when you were weak. But now you are done performing weakness for love. You are done using self-sacrifice as currency. You will not pay to be seen. You will not bleed to be held. You will not trade sovereignty for company. Never again. You do not need to become cruel. You need to become clear. Crystal. Razor. Not angry, not defensive, just silent in the face of nonsense. Just unmoved by attempts to explain you back into submission. Just indifferent to being misunderstood. That is what power sounds like. Not yelling, not convincing, just choosing your direction without pause, speaking your truth without sugar, leaving when peace demands distance, and staying when it's uncomfortable, because comfort is no longer your god. Growth is. You are not made to feel safe. You are made to become dangerous, not to others, but to every story that ever made you forget your own weight. You do not owe the world a version of yourself that they can swallow easily. You owe yourself the freedom to be so real it stings, so firm it polarizes, so rooted in your own voice that their confusion becomes irrelevant. If you want to be followed, you must first become unrelatable. If you want to be respected, you must first become feared, not by cruelty, but by the unshakable clarity of your presence. A presence that does not move for applause, a presence that does not shift for validation, a presence that is so whole, it confronts every fragment in others just by standing still. This is what they fear, and this is what they crave. The truth is, they want to follow something real, but they test you first. They poke, prod, push, waiting to see if you'll collapse, waiting to see if your strength was performance or principle. And the moment you flinch, the moment you react to their disapproval, they know you're still owned, that you're still waiting for permission. But if you hold, if you stay quiet, still, sure, they break, they feel it, that you're not here to please, that you've killed the boy who needed to be liked, that you're not speaking for attention, you're speaking because it must be said. That's when they lean in, that's when they follow, because you're no longer just a man, you're a mirror they can't break. And now, there is no turning back. You've crossed the threshold that separates the performer from the presence, the puppet from the prince. You've murdered the need that once dictated your tone, your posture, your decisions. You've burned the altar where you once laid your worth, hoping they'd kneel. And what remains is pure will, untouched by compliments, unshaken by contempt. You no longer broadcast your soul, hoping someone will understand. You walk with silence sharp enough to carve obedience. And those who once ignored you now feel something different when you enter the room. Not recognition, not affection, tension. Because power, real power, does not ask to be seen, it makes itself felt. And the irony? Now that you don't seek their validation, they offer it endlessly. Praise that once eluded you now drips from the mouths of the same people who doubted you. Why? Because they finally believe you, not because your words changed, but because you changed. Your energy stopped asking, your body stopped bending, your eyes stopped pleading. You became a man who would rather walk alone than ever kneel again, and people respond to that. Not because they're noble, but because they're wired to follow strength. Your indifference activates their instincts, your stillness commands them, and even those who hate you begin to obey you. But this is not the goal. You must remember, validation is still poison, even when it comes after your rise, especially then, because it will come dressed in loyalty, in awe, in admiration. And the weak part of you, the ghost you buried, will want to drink. Don't. Spit it out. You did not come this far to be seduced by the same trap, wearing a prettier mask. You did not climb this high to be bought by compliments you no longer need. Stay cold. Stay clear. Let their praise melt before it reaches you. Let their approval hit the walls of your self-certainty and fall lifeless to the floor, because if their clapping sways you, their silence can still stop you. Never again. Instead, feed on something deeper, something eternal, integrity, solitude, purpose without permission. Walk not because they cheer, but because the path is yours. Speak not because they listen, but because silence would betray your fire. Lead not because they follow, but because your direction cannot be negotiated. That is how you stay free. That is how you stay real. And one day, they will ask how you did it, how you stayed unmoved, unbroken, unknown, until it was too late to stop you. And your answer will be simple. I stopped needing to be seen. Let them misunderstand. Let them project. Let them call you cold, arrogant, unreachable. You no longer owe them warmth. You owe yourself truth. And truth, when spoken from a sovereign mouth, sounds like violence to the insecure. Let it. Let it burn their illusions. Let it silence their shallow noise. Let it ripple through their world like a prophecy they weren't ready for. Because you are no longer their mirror. You are no longer their echo. You are no longer theirs. If you've made it this far, it means something in you already let go. Something in you has already stopped reaching, stopped waiting, stopped apologizing for your presence. You are ready to walk without handrails. You are ready to speak without rehearsal. You are ready to exist without being approved. And if this message struck you, if it broke something loose in your chest, write this in the comments. I no longer need to be seen. Let the others find you there. Let them know the age of the obedient is over. Let them know something dangerous has returned to the throne. And if this was the moment your mask cracked, don't stop here. Watch the next video. It will finish what this one started.